I thoroughly enjoyed watching the episodes that we were allotted. So, first and foremost, congratulations on your return to the series. You're
Thank
here with a new story and playing a new character. So, how was it to return in this capacity?
It was new for me. This is the first time I've ever returned to a series, to be honest. I've always kind of done my work and then moved on to the next thing, but to kind of come back to something is it was new for me, and it was kind of challenging to leave behind Lucky from the first season, because I mean, that character, I still hold her so near and dear to my heart, but I had to release her in order to give Dawn my all. And that's what I did.
Now, I love all of the varying themes that are in this film, and sorry, in this series. And there's one scene in the first episode where your character Dawn speaks to her boss about her work style and versus the person that he's partnered her with on an investigation. And he tells her that he chose the partner on the case because he stays grounded and doesn't overinvest. And I felt like that was such a relatable moment for Black women in the workplace because we often work the hardest and are punished either way, whether that means being given more work or overlooked. So, how did that scene register for you?
It hit a very deep place, because almost like it's almost felt very much so like, her passion and her connection, the very thing that she was probably partially hired for, was kind of being thrown back in her face and used against her, which is a very, very real experience. Like, how is it ever okay to like not to have to be less passionate about something in order to do it? Like, it isn't passion and being invested in something, isn't that the thing that will make you do the thing better? Yes, but in that case, it was kind of like any reason to kind of keep her subdued, which is an unfortunate experience that I think a lot of people will be able to relate to. But that scene, that thing really, really hit somewhere very real for me, and I hope people can see that and feel seen.
Now, this showcases the tension within the LAPD during the height of what's happening in 91 in LA. How does that heighten kind of the paranoia, not just in the force, but also in the community? And how does her job also continue to impact her family?
Yeah, well, so as opposed to, so in the first installment, it's very clear who the us is and who the them is. But what you see in the second installment, which is very true to the time, people don't really know who the us is or who the them is, who the enemy is, who the bad guys are, who the good guys are. You don't really know. And by nature of that in itself, would just cause people to be very, very paranoid and, be suspicious of everyone. Um, and even Dawn, someone who is of this community and has joined this institution to help fight for this community, is also being kind of looked at like she's the enemy. She even kind of looks at herself like, am I on the right side of this? I have no idea. And so I felt like it was very, very true to the time. And you kind of see in the 90s, you kind of see a community kind of turn in on itself and fight against the outside, but also fight against each other. And it's very, very, it's very tough to watch and to see, because a lot of us are not that far removed from that time period, and so we remember it very well. But it's true, and which I really always show up for truth.
I love you in this role. So before we get into your actual character, which is completely different from anything we've seen you play thus far,
Yeah.
what attracted you to the script? Did you see the first iteration of them?
Yes, yes, I did. I mean, I jumped to the opportunity. It's one of the top shows on TV. I think it's so well done. The level of depth, and creativity and truth, and the challenge I saw as an artist to be invited to play with Lil Marvin. I think for every artist it's a dream come true. So when I got this, I was elated. I mean, the opportunity to play like this, and to really challenge myself as an artist, I was so grateful. Jump to it.
Now, as I mentioned, this character is very different from characters you've played thus far. He is very quirky. He seems a little awkward at first, but obviously, as the show progresses, we get to see more. What elements of your own personality did you pull from to transition into this character?
All of them. I pull from everything. If you know me, then you know that I have a bit of a morbid, comedic side, sense of humor. Um, and reading him, I related to him. I related to his need for acceptance, for love, in search of purpose. Um, the idea of living in a world where, and never to hear someone say "I love you," that scared me and moved me in such a way. Um, the fact that he's an aspiring, struggling actor, I of course obviously relate to that in that great way. Um, I just had to tell the truth. I got an opportunity to do something like you said, I've never done before, and Lil Marvin just had a great safe space for me to just pour into it. It was all written on the page. It was just a matter of me letting go and letting that inner child out and explore the unknown.
Now, there's a duality to your character. As I mentioned, he is kind of quirky, but then we also see these dark elements. Talk to us about kind of like the back and forth that we see with him. Is he struggling with being who he is versus what he thinks the world wants him to be?
Absolutely. I believe, Emin is a loner. He's alone in this world, and he's in search for identity, purpose. Why am I here? How am I here? And he is in a constant battle with his identity and who he is. I think his love for films and movies, I think his admiration for those characters, those famous people of the 80s and 90s, I think the thing that he gravitates towards is that those people are loved, right? And to him, from his perspective, everyone loves them. So let me be like those people, and maybe someone will see me finally, to be an actor is to be able to have everyone's eyeballs on you at one time, to be seen. To be an actor, that's what he sees. I think that right there is just the biggest part of it. I hope I answered your question in that.
Yes, you did. And my final question is, obviously we do see a certain transition happens with him throughout the project. But as we know, them really focuses a lot on racial identity, racial stereotypes, racial profiling. How does that factor into his journey? Especially in that one scene when he was auditioning in the beginning, you really killed that scene, and we really see the struggle at the forefront, and him continue to kind of battle it out. But how does the whole racial aspect play into who he ultimately becomes?
Wow. Well, especially in that time, how was therapy, was it safe for Black men in that time? Is it safe now? Here is a person who is longing to be seen and heard, and here's a person who in a sense has been thrown away. And I know a lot of Black men feel that way, alone in this world, and no one's asking how we feel and how are we, and expecting us to be strong and debonair and in these different and dangerous. And Edmund is none of those things, and in that audition, he's supposed to be a dangerous man, but he's so different. He's articulate, he's well-spoken, and here he is auditioning for a role that is so beyond himself, and he is expected, because he's Black, he should be able to be a thug and speak Ebonics and so on and so forth. You're not hard enough. That's constantly in a sense, a struggle that most men, even today, deal with. Their masculinity in some ways. Emin is a very soft-hearted being, and finds that he has to challenge himself into being a hard person to be a role, to become a role, right? Everyone calls him soft, and you seem like just a nice guy, but those are the roles he's always gone out for and he's never gotten, and he's trying to prove that he can be these other things that people want from him. The racial aspect of the foster care system, that's a bit wild. That's something to really dive into, but I think that's really left up for the audience to discover and talk about. I think outside of just being thrilled and moved by a horror film and the excitement of that and coming together and watching a great series, anthology, is also those lingering questions that we are left to answer and talk about, and which I think is really cool about this series, this anthology. And to even speak to what you asked before, the duality, Edmund wants to be something he hasn't felt loved as himself, so he wants to be someone else. And he finds comfort in trying to be someone else that is more loved than himself. And that is a struggle.
Now, you play a mother and a grandmother in this project, and initially she's presented as kind of the anchor of the family, but we later learn that she has, secrets of her own, and it unravels in a very interesting way. So take us through that journey.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm going to need therapy once again. But yes, little Marvin decided that I could do the work for him. It almost one takes because I've lived so much, but she's a strong woman from the civil rights, movement. She learned how to stand tall and accept inclusion and take care of her daughter, a very, intelligent detective at the LAPD in the 90s, and take care of her son, my grandson. And while this is happening, my character is aging and has physical problems, and then the mental and medical issues that are confusing her, and she's got a dynamic that she's hidden of holding a grave secret. And with the ability of, she's had the control of it, now she may not have the control of keeping the secret. Now there's paranormal issues and episodes in her home that are inexplicable, and it's a daunting, because she doesn't know if she should reveal those events to her daughter, or has her daughter and grandson seen the same paranormal events. And it's daunting, and it's disabling, and the disability, and I have to be, I'm going to lose the protection of being able to take care of my daughter and my grandson, and now they'll have to take care of me, and I have to be the vulnerable one, and I may lose everything, all of it. So with that said, it was the layers of emotion and ability and vulnerability, and giving little Marvin everything he needed to show the fear and the complexities of fear in this family. So it was a lot for me to portray, and lot of my ability to let go and be vulnerable.
Well, you did a phenomenal job, and outside of everything that is going on, within her own like personal medical situations, there's also a lot that's happening in the city during this time period. And of course, as we see with how close she is with her daughter, what's happening with her daughter. So how does everything within the force and everything happening within the community also contribute to her psyche?
Well, because she has no control. She can't solve everyone's problems, and she has to be closer to herself and more selfish of what she's going to reveal, because she just can't take care of everybody. She can barely take care of her daughter and her grandson now. And then with the paranormal issues and the secret that she holds, which is the major trigger to the investigation, and it can derail, it can break the family. She could lose the relationship with the people she loves and the community she loves. And so everything around her is crumbling, and she doesn't know how to keep it together, to bring the adhesiveness to her family and the community. And it's a very lonely element that I found in my journey, not being able to help everyone, not being able to solve problems, and to show your pain and show your bill. And it is something that I had to work on every day, which would just give me, the anxiety and the tenseness that I needed. So, yeah, physically, woo, it's took a toll on me, but that's what little Marvin needed, and that's what I needed to give and have the confidence to give.
So congratulations on being a part of the second installment of the Them anthology series. So were you a fan of the first iteration, and what attracted you to this specific role when you saw the script?
I was definitely a fan of the first installment. I remember watching it at home. Like just really like just in awe of what I was witnessing. And when I got the audition to be able to be a part of the second season, I was like, what? Like it was really crazy. It was really crazy, but I was ready, and I was especially ready to do a character, to portray a character that really like just has so many different layers within himself. So yes, I was a fan of the first season, and coming into the second season with Kel, it was a dream come true.
Now, speaking of the layers for your character, he battles a lot on his own. Now, initially we see him kind of as like this kid who's in his own world, he's playing his drums, but then we sort of get to see a lot unravel. Take us through that journey and what you think sparks that in the character as far as that transition that we see.
I think first and foremost, like I think Kel is just an innocent teen that's just been caught in the wrong things. I mean, like he's dealing with a lot. He's dealing with OCD. He's dealing with the divorce of his parents. And fun fact, that's something that I really had personally towards Kel, because my parents got divorced around the same age. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not that far from it. So I remember how everything was. So I just really used what I had in real life, my personal experiences towards Kel. That was a little fun fact, but yeah, like just that, and really just Kel is just a kid. He is a passionate drummer. He's dealing with a lot. But really, the thing that I want to say, the thing that really got him to the point that he's gotten to, like the thing that really got him to where the point that he's gotten to, I think that he felt alone in a sense. He really felt alone, and I think it's really important for people to really watch out for their kids, because once they feel alone in certain spots, like it's really hard for them to get out of that corner. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's how he really got into the sort of situation that he's in. And yeah, a lot of things just happening towards him that's really hard for a teenager. So he's doing everything that he can. He's smoking weed to help cope with everything that's going on, but like it's a lot for a teenager.
Now we see he has a unique family dynamic. He lives with his mother and his grandmother, and though he loves them and they have, like a close-knit unit, he also is dealing with kind of the fallout from the work that his mom does. How does her work impact his personal life?
During that time, I think having a person on the force as your parent is crazy. Like I would say that I wouldn't even want to tell any of my classmates or anybody that my mom is a part of the LAPD. You know what I'm saying? Like just because of the things that was going on, especially during that Rodney King situation. It was the worst time to be like, oh yeah, my mom a cop. So just knowing that, I know it was hard for Kel. Like it's definitely hard for Kel. For her profession to be a part of law enforcement, it's like, damn, like what a time. You know what I'm saying? Like, but for myself, I would do the same thing. I would be like Kel. I wouldn't tell nobody. Yeah, that's really it. During that time, I would think that's embarrassing. Just because of everything that was going on, I would think that was embarrassing. So I'm with Kel. I wouldn't even tell nobody.
Going into the second season of the Them anthology series, what were you hoping to expand upon this time around?
I was excited with the second season to explore the city of Los Angeles in a different era. I think watching a city, and I'm endlessly fascinated by Los Angeles and its history. I think watching a city go from the 1950s to the 1990s and the way in which the city is not only different, but the ways in which it's the same, or the ways in which the past has sort of affected the present, that was very fascinating to me. Yeah. So that was the beginning of it, but then I would just say the 90s are an era that I am deeply, deeply nostalgic for and that I love so much. So I knew very, very quickly that that was a playground that was going to be a lot of fun to dive into.
Well, you did an amazing job. They're obviously stemming from the first iteration. There are continued elements of racial tension and profiling. Those remain present. What makes the early 90s period, specifically LA, the perfect setting to include these themes?
Well, I think the story takes place in 91, in the days right after the Rodney King tape sends sort of shockwaves, not only through the city, but through the world. And I knew kind of very quickly that watching a woman navigate, a Black woman who's also a seasoned detective for the LAPD, navigate the thorniness and the kind of complexities of the city at that time was going to create something very compelling. So that was the first impulse. I would also say secondarily, I love that time frame, and every season of them is sort of inspired by my love of a certain cinematic tradition. And so the 90s had this wonderful sort of tradition of the serial killer thrillers, but also the supernatural serial killer thrillers that I was obsessed with as a kid. And all of those kind of references played a big part in it as well.
Now, what elements of the horror genre and suspenseful thriller drama further allows you to tell like these deep stories in the way that you tell them? Why is this your go-to?
I think horrors always have this tremendous ability of kind of, you know, it's like slipping a pill inside of a delicious cake, and you don't realize, I don't think, that you're getting the medicine until later. And I like that about horror. I think it allows you to traffic in kind of deep emotional, psychological, spiritual, socio-political themes in a way that is fun and pulse pounding and makes you jump and makes your heart race. And so I think those combinations of things have always excited me.
I love that Deborah is back, and I just spoke to her. She talked about being so excited to return because this is her first time returning to a series in any capacity. And I read that you have kind of declared her as your muse. What makes her the perfect protagonist for this series?
Deb has this tremendous ability of being like the warm kind of powerful beating heart at the center of any story that she touches. And it's a really unique ability that she possesses. And so I knew that with the first season, we saw that. And as I sat down to write the second season, it was like the only face I saw was hers over and over again. And I tried actually desperately to push her out of my mind because I'm like, okay, it's time to move on. And the truth is I couldn't see anyone else but her. I was writing to her, but writing to a totally different her. And so I think what's very exciting, particularly for audiences who watch the first season, is to watch Deb embrace this entirely new character in an entirely new way. Yeah, I was just very grateful that she came back.
Well, I was able to watch the first 4 episodes, so I can't wait to see the rest. Thank you again, and I'm so excited to see how the rest of the story plays out.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.